Hello everyone, welcome back. I'm Elder Thurgood, and today I'd like to share a little bit about one of my favorite stories, David fighting Goliath. The Philistine army had come against the Israelites with the intent to completely destroy them and subject them into slavery. Their plan for this was a giant among them, a man named Goliath of the city of Gath, a man so large that his staff or spear is described as having the length and width of a weaver's beam. This man was destructive. However, the Philistines knew that they couldn't use Goliath to beat the entire army. Goliath's strengths would be best used in a one-on-one fight. So the armies of the Philistines come up against the army of Israel, and Goliath steps forth, challenging any Israelite who would dare face him to a single combat. If Goliath won, he said, the Philistines would take the Israelites and subject them to slavery. The Israelites would become Philistine servants. If Goliath fell in battle, Goliath swore that the Philistines would deliver themselves up and become slaves to the Israelites. No man dared face Goliath. It was certain death, suicide, in accepting that challenge. King Saul, king of the Israelite nation, couldn't command anyone to fight Goliath. It would be sending a man to his death. For 40 days, the armies are at a standstill as Goliath taunts and teases the Israelites, asking someone, anyone, to come forth and fight. No one will step forth, until a young boy named David comes to bring provisions to the army. He hears the Philistines' taunts and teases. David is outraged. The Lord is with him, and he has a strong faith in the power of God. He says, "Why has no one come to face this man? What will happen to the man who beats him?" The army assures him that surely anyone who defeats Goliath will become rich and powerful and receive many gifts and honor. David is shocked that none of the Israelites have enough faith to take on the giant. He starts mocking them, saying, "If you have faith, you would take on Goliath." Well, this brings him to be brought before King Saul. After all, the Israelite morale is low enough without David mocking them. King Saul asks what the meaning of his mockery is. David volunteers himself to go up against Goliath. He says, "I'll take him on." King Saul doesn't want this. He's a kid, a shepherd boy. He says, "Go home. You can't do this." David explains that he watches his father's flocks, and that lions and bears would come to take the sheep, but when the Lord was with him, David could go and defeat the lion and the bear and get the sheep back. So Saul is impressed, feeling the Spirit of God flowing through David. He agrees, and even offers David his own armor. If David fell in battle, so would Saul's honor. David rejects the armor, though. It's too heavy, he hasn't used it before, and he doesn't even know how to use a sword. So instead he takes a staff and a sling, the tools of a shepherd boy. And with that alone, with the Spirit of God, goes up against Goliath, taking only 5 stones from a stream. Goliath, upon seeing the boy, is outraged. "Am I a dog," the giant cries, "that you would come against me?" David has faith. He stares the giant in the eye and says this. I'd like to read it because I love this. "Then said David to the Philistine, 'Thou comest to me with a sword, and with a spear, and with a shield, but I come to thee in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom thou hast defied. This day will the Lord deliver thee into mine hand, and I will smite thee, and take thine head from thee, and I will give the carcasses of the Philistines this day unto the fowls of the air, and to the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel. And all this assembly shall know that the Lord saveth not with sword and spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hands.'" Goliath is outraged, and he runs forth to attack David. David runs towards Goliath and slings a stone in his sling. Spinning it around a few times, he launches the stone towards the Philistine, striking him in the forehead. The stone kills Goliath instantaneously as the giant falls back. David rushes up to finish him off, drawing the giant's own sword from its sheath and using it to cut off his head. He raises it up in victory, and all the armies of Israel attack the Philistines, chasing them out of their land. The Lord was with David, and he knew it. There was no way David could have lost that fight as long as the Lord was with him.